Are we treating the facts fairly? Welcome to Critical Thinking Scan, where we look at how you can think about any faith-challenging message and arrive at a biblical, logical conclusion yourself. I'm Patricia Engler, and today let's take a closer look at a type of cognitive bias or faulty thinking pattern which is especially relevant to the origins controversy, and it's called the confirmation bias. In an earlier video, I mentioned that the confirmation bias describes humans' tendencies to look for and focus on information that confirms our beliefs and expectations, while paying less attention to information that contradicts our beliefs and expectations. For instance, here's the example I remember a professor using to teach about the confirmation bias in my research methods in psychology class. Imagine you're a basketball player, and partway into the season, you notice that for almost every winning game, you've worn your favorite blue socks. You might start to hypothesize that the socks are somehow helping you win. You're playing again that night, so you decide to wear the socks. And sure enough, you score the winning basket. The next game, however, you forget your socks and end up losing. At this point, it might be easy to conclude that the socks are somehow lucky. But besides being illogical and potentially unbiblical, this would be an example of the confirmation bias, because you're only looking at cases which confirmed your hypotheses that the socks were somehow helping you win. To avoid the confirmation bias, you would have to equally test your null hypothesis, that's the opposite of your original idea, by considering the games that you lost while wearing the socks or won without wearing the socks. And in science, researchers can show a confirmation bias if they only look for and pay attention to results that confirm their hypothesis. And like you can see from the resources linked to this video, the confirmation bias may often affect what dates researchers end up with for things like rocks and fossils. For instance, if researchers expect a rock sample to fall within a certain age range, let's say around 100 million years, those expectations can often help determine the type of dating methods they choose and the way they interpret the results. If the results give an unexpected date, it's common to try explaining away the discrepancy. For instance, the researchers might suggest that the rock sample was contaminated. So only looking for a date within the expected age range while dismissing contradictory data could be considered an example of the confirmation bias. Of course, creation researchers can be subject to the confirmation bias too if they only pay attention to data that support their models. But remember, the thing to keep in mind when using words like data or evidence is that these words represent facts from observational science, and all of us have access to the same facts, the same rocks, same fossils, same measurements. But we interpret those facts differently as evidence for different conclusions depending on the worldviews we start with. My textbooks, for instance, interpreted the fact that mammals have similar four-limbed skeletons as evidence for evolution. But a biblical interpretation of that same observation would be that mammals share a common designer. So was I showing the confirmation bias by not accepting this as evidence for evolution? Not necessarily, because it wasn't the evidence itself I was rejecting, the observation that mammals have similar forelimbs. It was the interpretation of that evidence based on evolutionary presuppositions about the past, which didn't align with my biblical presuppositions. Now, some people would say that consistently interpreting evidence according to one presupposition is the confirmation bias too. But at the end of the day, whether our starting point is God's word or man's word, we all have those presuppositions. Within a secular worldview, however, there's no good reason to start with or trust in any presupposition, because no one can know everything or even anything. So you can never know whether that presupposition is valid. But within a biblical worldview, there is good reason to ground our presupposition in God's word as the absolute truth, because if a loving God created a logical universe and made us in his image as rational creatures, we have a consistent philosophical basis from which to know things and reason and learn about our universe. For more on how to think critically about messages that may challenge the Bible's teaching, you can access my other CT scan videos packed with tactics, tips, and tools that helps me as a Christian student at secular university. Thank you for watching. Hey, it's Patricia. Just wanting to let you know that if you like these videos, are on board to share the message of biblical authority, and want to give, you're welcome to help Answers in Genesis produce more content like this and equip more people to defend their faith by making a one-time donation or becoming a monthly supporter by clicking the link below. Thanks so much.